Increasingly, there are emerging ministries around the world in media, radio, television, internet. There's more happening in the airwaves, perhaps these days, than ever before in history. And in the UK, there is a sharp young guy who's known as Richard Case, who has been broadcasting in the UK now since he was 19 years of age, both radio and television. He's just launching a new show called The Richard Case Show. And he's joined us from London with his delightful London brogue. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to see you.
Do we have accents? When you talk to us, are you aware that we have an accent?
I am aware. A lot different from mine.
Yeah, well, a lot different from yours. And so when you're talking to someone like me, would you'd assume I was an American, or would you be able to tell I was Canadian?
I can tell that you're Canadian, just slightly.
Really?
Just slightly. But it's hard to tell.
Well, yeah. Because both the States and Canada have roots in the UK, but the Canadians perhaps are a little closer tied. In fact, we have a queen, as do you, right?
Which is really cool.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, the royal wedding is behind us now, but what's the general view of royalty these days in the UK among young adults?
Among young adults, a lot of young people have a lot of respect for the royal family. I'm disappointed I was not invited. I thought that the invitation would come through the mail. Right. I didn't get that, but they do have a lot of respect for the royal family.
In spite of all of the, well, what did the Queen call it? The annus horribilis? I mean, all of the marital dysfunctions of the past decade?
Yeah.
And all of the drama around Diana?
Yeah, a lot of people are still very shocked in regards to, you know, Diana passing away. It was very sudden, it was very tragic as well. And I don't think the media in Great Britain has ever come away from her death. She's always in the papers every now and again somehow. And I think, you know, Kate Middleton has something of to live up to. I think a lot of people are going to try to place her in Diana's shoes, and it's not going to be easy for her.
I was going to say it's a huge shadow that Diana casts, and for William's new wife to even attempt to fill those shoes, you know, she'll probably just go her own way and remember Diana with respect, but just be Kate.
Yes.
Even though she's wearing that beautiful ring, which has been replicated now all around the world.
All around the world.
Does Christian broadcasting have much of a history in the UK?
Not a great, huge history in the UK. I think it has a huge history more in America and Canada and other parts of the world. But it's certainly growing more in the UK. So you have different television channels now in the UK that are broadcasting Christian TV, which is superb, but the history is not so great as such.
What kind of viewership do you get?
Wow, that's a good question. We got a good few millions, I guess, on Christian television. The great thing is we've got Sky, and so therefore the programs that are broadcasted in the UK, Christian shows, are also broadcasted across Europe and other parts of the world as well through different networks.
On Sky?
On Sky, that is right.
Now, why would Sky? This is one of the cable or the satellite networks that I watch. Sky, you know, I'm in Africa when I'm in the Middle East.
Right.
Why would Sky be interested in Christian broadcasting?
Good question. There certainly are what it is, of course, with Christian TV, and it works very differently from, I guess, mainstream television as such as well. The programmers certainly, you know, pay for their programs to be on Sky. Sky are interested. I guess Sky also get a great benefit because they understand that there's a great number of Christians across the UK and parts of Europe as well that are very interested in watching Christian TV, and they see that because that reflects within the viewership of the shows.
Are you experiencing a tension or a stress at all as a religious broadcaster these days in terms of the growing population of religious Muslims?
Most definitely, yes. The sad thing is Great Britain, well, pretty much Europe as a whole, is very much of a secularist, you know, the Western world is very secularist nowadays, isn't it? And so therefore, when it comes to Christianity in the UK, often it's very difficult, I find, with them trying to at times make a stand, make a difference in the world out there where it is very secularist. You look at Muslims, you look at Hindus out there right now in the UK, and they seem to be pretty much making a lot of ground because I think they're prepared to make a stand. I think as Christians in the UK, around Europe too, we can make more of a stand.
Yeah, so what's happened is a kind of an incremental secularization of the Christian message in the UK and Europe?
Definitely.
I hear that church attendance is way down.
Yeah, church attendance is way down. I think young people right now in the UK are very hungry, very passionate about God. And I think we're beginning to see a difference with the young people
Why do you suppose that is? I mean, if their parents are kind of turned off, or at least are lukewarm, why the interest on the part of the emerging generation? I mean, apart from the Holy Spirit really just doing a work in their lives, but how do you understand that, as you know, from your perspective?
From my perspective, I believe that when a young person gets on fire for Jesus, they really get on fire for God, and they understand that God's given them a life to live. And therefore, if they're prepared to be committed to that life and that lifestyle, they begin to see great things happening within their lives. So many of them have role models that they see on Christian TV, they see around the world as well, and that they're prepared to say, actually, I'm going to make a mark, make a stand in my world, in my generation for God. And so therefore, a lot of them do get very passionate and are making a stand. But of course, it is very difficult too, because when you've got your parents that aren't Christians, that are living a lifestyle that's completely different from the lifestyle that you're living. Often, in fact, as a young person, you don't feel like you've got that parental support, which often is very discouraging as well. But then they've got that church family support too that often helps.
We talked about royalty and young people respecting the royal. What are they more passionate about, the Royals or football?
Yeah, I think football.
Football? Yeah, I think so. I think so too. In fact, you were pretty passionate about football at one point in your life. Tell me a bit about that.
Wow, well, I was very passionate about football. There was a saying in the UK a long time ago that was eat football, sleep football, drink football. And I was certainly that. I ate football, slept football, drank football every single day because I was so passionate about football. And it got to the degree whereby my childhood dream and ambition one day was to become a footballer. You call it soccer here, I guess, but it was to be a footballer and to play professionally across the world. And that dream came to pass for me at a very young age. I remember myself waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning as a young teenager, early hours of the morning, all by myself, and I would just train and train and train and
You were
train.
recruited by Arsenal?
I was, that's right. Arsenal.
How did they find you? I mean, you're just a young kid.
I was.
I mean, do they have scouts watching children out there playing? I mean, how do they find you?
Yeah, they've got scouts all over the place in the UK, and so when your coaches and managers realise that you've got something, a raw talent about you, sometimes they just invite scouts to come along and watch you play football. Sometimes you're completely unaware that they're there.
Right.
And suddenly they see you and they scout you, and suddenly you find yourself playing for a top club. I was very privileged. I found myself playing in the Arsenal Football Academy, and I was like, wow, my dreams come to pass. I'm in the Arsenal Football Academy. And suddenly things kind of changed for me.
What happened?
Well, I basically became a Christian at the age of 14 years of age. When I became a Christian, I got on fire for Jesus. I just became very passionate about God. And I remember men and women laying hands on me and prophesying over my life. This was just at the age of 14. I didn't know who these people were. And they said to me, you're going to travel around the world and you're going to preach the gospel. You're going to become very influential around the world, and I see you going places. And suddenly my love and passion for God grew and grew and grew. As that grew furthermore, my passion and love for football began to decrease. Then God challenged me and God spoke to me. God said to me, are you going to become a footballer or are you going to serve me? And the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my entire life, and I mean that honestly, was that I found myself deciding and having to choose. Was I going to serve God, or was I going to become a footballer? Earn maybe £100,000 a week is very tempting. For most kids, of course, become a footballer, become a soccer player. I remember saying to God, God, I'm going to serve you. I'm going to serve you. And I remember surrendering my career as a footballer for God, and it was tough, it was challenging, but I knew that God had called me for something greater in life. Not that there's something wrong in becoming a footballer, but God just had a different path for my life.
Now, you got into broadcasting at 19.
That's right.
How did that happen?
God gave me a vision. I remember God speaking to me and telling me to get involved in television. And my dream was that I'd one day become a producer, a presenter, and direct television shows. And so therefore I found myself writing out this proposal for television. And I remember speaking to the director of a very well-known channel in the UK on Sky, and I gave him my proposal. And I just said to God, God, would you just bless this? I just speak of favor over this. And I met with him, and he just said to me that he loved my idea, loved my proposal to have this television show. My idea was to interview famous people, Christian celebrities. And after my meeting with him, he said to me, okay, let's run with this. And then he said to me, but this is how much it's going to cost. And I remember saying to him, okay. He said to me, can you afford it? And I was like, okay. I remember going back home and I was so discouraged. I knelt down and I said to God, God, you've opened this massive door for me to do television at the age of 19. but I can't afford it. It's like thousands of pounds. At that point, I was just starting out. I was just about to go to university, to go to Bible college, in fact. And a very well-known friend of mine, very well-known across the world, very influential, just said to me in his car, how are things going with your television show? You know, how are the preparations going? And I told him, and he said to me, how much does it cost? And I told him, and he said, okay, I'll pay for it. That day, that moment, that was the beginning of my television ministry around the world. And I've gone on to interview some incredible people around the world as well, and that was just phenomenal. I've interviewed the special advisor to the president of Uganda. I've interviewed Shane Lynch, former member of Boyzone, Kelly Bryant, former member of Eternal. I've interviewed the government representative for Washington, just many different people on the show, and it's just been extraordinary what God has done in my life when I gave up something from such a young age at 14, which was football.
These people you interview, are they believers?
They are.
They
They're
are.
believers, yeah.
Does it surprise your audience to discover that some of these high-profile people have a personal faith?
It certainly does. Many of them that I interview in my television show, a lot of people actually aren't always aware that they're Christians because they're in mainstream television and they don't often talk about their faith. Sometimes they're perhaps a little bit timid about it because the secular press in the UK, sometimes when you are a Christian, it doesn't perhaps at times give you the best coverage about your faith perhaps. And so therefore they don't always talk about their faith so openly. On my show they certainly do, and I encourage them to open up about their life.